Hello, welcome into your mindfulness moment this Wednesday. If you are new to joining, even if you're not, I am Kate Landreth and I am the education lead with Family Caregivers of British Columbia. And I'm also a yoga and mindfulness instructor in Victoria, BC. And so I'm really excited today to share with you some mindfulness techniques. And this is specifically around self-compassion. So I'll let a few more people just join before I dig in. And if you are a caregiver, that reminder that our call line, our support call line is open and the hours have been extended. So it is Monday to Friday from 8:30 to 7 p.m. We are available and there to support you. We also have resources such as webinars that are happening. Our next webinar that we're hosting is next Friday, so it's the 22nd at 10 a.m. With Patricia Wallace. She is a clinical counselor with Parkinson's BC, and she will be sharing her knowledge around mental health and well-being, specifically for COVID and this time for caregivers. And so I'm really excited to be hosting that. And also, we have our third episode of our podcast, Caregivers Out Loud, that has just gone out to all of you, and that is on our website. You can find that. It's also on Spotify, iTunes. So there's other avenues, but the easiest one shot and one click is through our website. All right. So if you're joining me this morning live, or maybe you'll be accessing this later, I want you to find a comfortable seated shape that works for you. And I'll just give you kind of the roadmap of what today is going to look like. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of learning about what self-compassion is, and also what self-compassion is not. Sometimes we get really blocked with this topic. And so I'm going to share with you some insight around that. And then specifically the three components of self-compassion. And then I'll guide you into a self-compassion practice. And it's called the self-compassion break. And you're welcome to use this as you start to practice mindfulness, specifically self-compassion. It is a really nice way to tap in and to practice. So self-compassion mindfulness is a method and researched by Dr. Kristen Neff and Dr. Chris Germer. And as I shared right at the beginning, I am a yoga and mindfulness instructor, and I've been practicing for the past 15 years, and I've been teaching for the past 8 years. And it's been in the last year and a half that I took as a student the mindfulness self-compassion training. So it's an 8-week course. And it was probably one of the most challenging practices that I've learned to date with mindfulness. And it was quite enlightening. And it really required me to notice all of these areas of self-talk or striving that weren't particular kind or compassionate. And it really aims to strengthen that forgiveness and compassion when I did slip up, which is human. So through self-compassion, we become an inner ally instead of an inner enemy. Okay, so before I list the long reasons of why self-compassion is so needed for caregivers and just people in general, I want to address some of the misconceptions or misgivings about whether it's good to be self-compassion or if we can be just a little too self-compassionate. In our society, Western culture doesn't promote self-compassion as a virtue, and many people harbor deep suspicions about people being kind to themselves. So as we go through this exercise, I want you to take a moment to consider any misgivings that you personally have about self-compassion. So any fear or concerns you have about its possible downsides. And I'll share what mine are in a minute, but maybe just sit still and quiet for a moment. You may close your eyes. And again, just consider any misgivings that you have about self-compassion. If there's any kind of prickling things that come up of your fear of, well, if I'm self-compassionate, it would mean X. When I participated in this reflection, things that came up for me was that it would be or feel self-indulgent, and that if I was too compassionate to myself, I would be lazy. I felt it might be selfish to be kind to myself, or what if people judged me that I was actually being kind to myself? So all of these thoughts for me kind of bubbled to the surface. And a large body of research shows that common misgivings about self-compassion, this topic, are actually misconceptions, which means they are generally unfounded. So common misgivings that are around this topic is that self-compassion is a form of pity. So, however, self-compassion really is the antidote to self-pity. Well, self-pity is like, poor me. Self-compassion recognizes that life is hard for everyone. And research also shows that self-compassion people are more likely to engage in perspective taking. So that lens opens and rather of focusing in on their distress. So I'm just going to share because this was so meaningful for me to learn because a lot of these things came up in my practice. So self-compassion will make me weak or it will make me too vulnerable. But self-compassion really is this reliable source of inner strength, and it confers great courage, and it really does enhance our resilience when we're faced with these really difficult challenges, specifically when being a caregiver. And the research also shows that self-compassion people are better able to cope with challenging situations. So trauma, chronic pain, divorce, caregiving. So this resilience really is a part of self-compassion. Another thing, this came up for me, self-compassion is self-centered. And I should be focusing on being compassionate to other people. That's the important part. Like self-compassion to ourselves actually enables us to give more in our relationships. And it shows that self-compassionate people tend to be more caring and supportive in relationships, and we compromise when we are in conflict. So those are some key things I want you to consider as you think about this topic this morning. And often, especially when you're new to self-compassion, it can sometimes feel a little contrived or fake. And so it really is about unlearning some of these key things about why we actually have this negative self-talk that might bubble up and what it feels like to actually turn inwards and be kind. And self-compassion is so crucial for caregivers because it not only helps us to forgive ourselves when we do make mistakes, which will happen, but it also allows us to acknowledge and comfort ourselves when we are in the difficult role of caregiving. So the first component of self-compassion is self-kindness. So when we make a mistake or we fail in some way, we have this tendency to initiate negative self-talk or kind of, oh, I can't believe I did that, instead of really embracing and making ourselves feel safe. So self-kindness counters this tendency so that we are actually caring towards ourselves and as if we were caring for someone else that we cared for, rather than being really critical when noticing these personal shortcomings or errors. So the first step to self-compassion or self-kindness is acknowledging that we have pain and we suffer. And it could sound something like, well, I can provide a certain level of care. I can't do it all by myself. All people have limitations. So this first component is really just dialing in on, when you're feeling pain or when you're noticing suffering, that you acknowledge that. And the second component of self-compassion is common humanity. And it's a sense that we're all interconnected. And this is a really central part to self-compassion. And it's also recognizing that all humans are flawed and that we are works in progress and that everyone makes mistakes or fails and has hardship. So self-compassion honors the unavoidable fact that we do suffer and that life, we will not get out of our lives without having some kind of pain or suffering. The pain that I feel in difficult times is the same pain that you feel also in difficult times. And the circumstances, yes, are different, and the degree of pain could be different, but the basic experience of suffering is the same. So we really tap into that common humanity piece. And then the third piece is mindfulness, which we're going to practice these three things together. And mindfulness is about being aware of your moment-to-moment experience in a clear and balanced manner. So it means that we are really open to the present moment. So we allow our thoughts to enter in, our emotions, our sensations. We're trying not to resist anything because the normal the tendency as we're moving through life is like, oh, I'll put that in the drawer and I'll deal with that later. Or, oh, I can't, that's challenging to me. I'm going to bypass it. And, these kind of things live in our body. They don't go away until we start to just acknowledge them. So mindfulness is a really essential component to self-compassion because we need to turn inward and acknowledge our suffering. And we need to be with our pain just long enough to respond with care and kindness. Okay, so the next piece here is the actual practice. So I'm going to guide you through, we're going to apply the three components of self-compassion, which is mindfulness, common humanity, and kindness. And we're going to do this bringing forth some considerations of when things might be challenging in your life. You can draw up a situation and I will guide you through. And if there's any part that you're feeling uncomfortable or it's just not working for you, maybe just stay and breathe here. So you're first welcome to, if you're not already, taking that comfortable seat. One part of self-compassion and being kind to yourself is touch. And so if it feels good, you might rest hands on heart. You might rest one hand on your heart, one on your belly. You could cup your hands and rest them in your lap. You could take a soft hand to the cheek. It really is like, how can you make this touch safe and genuine to you? And as I walk you through this, it's important that you find language that works for you. So you don't want to be repeating something that doesn't really fit or having an internal argument. So for example, I know for myself, people prefer, or I prefer to use the word struggle instead of suffering. Or you might prefer to use the word protect or support instead of kindness. So you can try out different words. So start to close your eyes. Your hands are resting lightly. Take a few deep breaths to come into your body. And if your eyes closed don't work, maybe just humble them down so you're not looking around. Sigh out your mouth, let it go. I want you to now think of a situation in your life that is causing you stress. It could be a health problem a relationship problem, work, or some other struggle. And choose a problem in the mild to moderate range, not a big problem, as we want to build the resource of self-compassion gradually. So just calling for something that might be bubbling, stress, and then start to visualize clearly in your mind's eye. What is the setting? Who is saying what to whom? What is happening here? Or what might happen? Can you feel any discomfort in your body as you bring this difficulty to mind? And if not, you might want to choose something that does evoke a little bit of feeling sensation in the body. Now try saying to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. So that is mindfulness. And perhaps your other wording speaks to you better, like this hurts, or ouch, this is stressful, this is painful. Again, the wording is unique to you. Just acknowledging that it might evoke some pain or suffering here. And then the next step, you try saying to yourself, suffering is a part of life. And that's the common humanity piece. And some other options might be, I'm not alone. Everyone experiences this just like me. And this is how it feels when people struggle in this way. So again, just acknowledging that collective piece, that pain is a part of life. It's not right or wrong, it just is. Notice your hands resting in a way that feels compassionate and kind to yourself. Breathe into that space. And the next piece, kindness. Try saying to yourself, may I be kind to myself, or may I give myself what I need right now. There might be other words of kindness and support that you need to hear in this difficult situation. So it might sound like, may I accept myself as I am? May I forgive myself? May I be strong? May I be patient? And a good technique, if you're finding this challenging to say these words to yourself, is to imagine that you are saying them to a dear friend that is having the same problem as you. What would you say to this person? What simple message would you deliver to your friend, that heart to heart moment? And then see if you can say that same message to yourself. Take a deep breath in and a full breath out. So again, that step of acknowledging your suffering, knowing that you're not alone in the common humanity of life and experiences. And then gently turning inward to offer yourself words of support. It's a practice. And it takes time to build this practice, so be patient with yourself. Thank you for joining this morning. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I look forward to being with you next week for another mindfulness moment. And until that time, please know that we're here to support you. So please call our line if you need support right now, or feel free to email us if you have any questions, or myself about mindfulness. Thank you.